Chicago Sports Profiles magazine, Chicago's #1 sports magazine, and the Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago's sports authority, are proud to present the Bud Light Sports Wrap Series, the only show offering you a front row seat to all Chicago sports.
The Bud Light Sports Wrap Show is on the air. Hi again, everyone. I'm Jim Volkman, and tonight we're broadcasting from 34s in Schaumburg, and of course the man on my right needs no introduction. Nonetheless, I'll introduce him anyway. Walter Payton is our special guest tonight. It's our pleasure to welcome the NFL. I would say that it's kind of a hometown atmosphere here, Walter. Of course, you're one of the owners of this place, and it's a fine establishment.
Thank you.
The NFL's all-time leading rusher. We could spend, it's only a half-hour show, I could spend hours and hours talking about all the records, and everyone knows about the legendary status of Walter's football playing days, 13 seasons with the Bears, 75 to 87. But, Walter, if you could, update us on your life after football. You know, your career with the Bears ended in 87, and now you're involved in a lot of different things. The transition from Walter Payton, the football player, to Walter Payton, the businessman, and you have something interesting going on with some partners involving a possible NFL team, I understand.
Yeah, we're working in the St. Louis area. We're trying to seduce the NFL owners to bring an NFL football team back to St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
We've made tremendous strides in the community with the state, the county, and city of St. Louis, because these three different entities, they have to work together to facilitate this deal. Right now, we've gotten 220 million in tax-free bonds to build a dome
should
stadium.
Be enough, right? Yeah.
I tell you what, it's not.
Really?
But the city, as well as the state, they've agreed to throw in more, so we're going to get that deal taken care of. Now it's up to the owners to agree upon expanding. And
what's the timetable on that? The talk of expansion would be maybe in a few years.
Well, they're going to hopefully they appoint the expansion committee in March, and they will choose, and hopefully they will select the cities in October, and they will be playing next September.
That sounds great. Walter Payton would be back in football in some capacity. We got a lot of stuff to talk to Walter about. Speaking of football, I want to ask number 34 about some of his memories. We're going to take care of that in our next segment. Don't go away. We'll be back. And we return on the Bud Light Sports Wrap Show. Jim Volkman with the legendary Walter Payton, and I'd like to remind everyone that this segment of the program is brought to you by Chicago Sports Profiles magazine. Look for it at your local newsstands. It's in some convenience stores throughout the area. The one and only Michael on the cover. And in addition, not only the latest Sports Profiles edition is out, but also the special bowl supplement with, of course, Michael on the cover. Now, I've seen you at a lot of bowl games. You're quite a basketball fan. What do you think about the athletic ability of number 23? I know basketball is near to your heart.
I tell you what, Michael is probably, without a doubt, the best basketball player that's ever played the game for his height.
Yeah.
And then in terms, you can turn around and go to the 7-footers, but pound for pound and inch for inch, I think he's the best.
I understand you like to play on your driveway at home, playing some pickup games, and legend has it that one time Walter beat Artis Gilmore in a one-on-one. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, Artis...
you give him a few beers before the game?
No.
You have the quickness advantage on him.
We played NBA style, and we were very aggressive, a lot of body checking, and
wow.
He thought since I was a small guy, I wasn't strong enough, and I ended up beating him.
Walter, since you haven't played competitively since that game in January '88 against the Redskins, your last game, how much of you misses just that competitive zeal, that ability to express yourself, physically, and what do you do now that you're not playing football to, I guess, just pacify yourself? Because I guess a born competitor like yourself, it never really leaves, does it?
Well, not really, but in terms of missing the game of football, I'm still so closely involved to it that I can't miss it. I'm on the board of directors with the Bears, and we're trying to get the franchise in St. Louis. So, and I also do television for the British Network and covering American football here. So I'm still involved in football, so I can't miss it.
When you're on the sidelines, you don't miss the hitting and the blocking and all that stuff. You used to like to dish out some punishment.
I'll tell you what, to miss, the punishment that these guys take out there on the football field on Sunday, you would have to be crazy. I don't miss all the bumps and bruises.
I can't believe you don't miss training camp. I mean, that's...
I definitely don't miss that.
Yeah.
I do miss not being around the guys, but that's about it.
Speaking of that, I guess coming up here soon, you're going to have a retirement party for your old teammate Matt Suey. Matt had a long career, but the thing that amazes me, I guess Matt just played, about 10 seasons. You played 13, and when I look at all your records, and I just jotted some of them down here, boy, it would take a sheet that big to complete them all. The one that amazes me the most is the 186 consecutive games you played in. You just talked about the punishment and the incredible level of that in the NFL. How did you do that? 186 games, it's incredible.
You can't do it by yourself. A lot of things that I accomplished was because of my teammates and their efforts in protecting me and giving me the opportunities. And a lot of it goes to hard training and conditioning.
Right.
But those are the two things that you would have to take into consideration. Other than that, it was a lot of luck.
And some prayer, I guess.
Yeah.
Tell us about the hill, Walter. The legendary hill is what Walter would use in the off-season. Somewhere in I guess Arlington Heights or something. It was kind of just like a field. You would run up that thing, for hours at a time in the off-season when you were playing, huh?
Well, that was part of my conditioning and my training schedule, and what I would do is I would take some of the local high school talent as well as some of the college talent to go out and do the workouts with me. Unfortunately, now that hill has been kind of leveled off a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
So you don't run it anymore?
Not at all.
What do you do to stay in shape then? I mean, you look great. You still go. Dancing?
No, I still work out. I don't work out like I'm getting ready to play a football game.
Right.
I do a lot of conditioning for my auto racing.
Okay. We're going to talk about your auto racing a little bit later on in the program. One more quick question. It's hard for me to pass this up. I know you've been asked this so many times, but if you had to pick out one moment that stands out in your career, what would be the high point of that great 13-year career you had? The Super Bowl?
No, Super Bowl wouldn't be it. I think if I had to pick one moment, one game that where I really felt real good about it, it would have to be the playoff game that we played the Washington Redskins in Washington.
'84, right? That was the first really big postseason game you guys won, and you were great that day. You threw a touchdown pass, I believe. All right, we're talking about football memories, and coming up, some more with the legendary Walter Payton, number 34. Don't go away. It should be good. Thank you very much. The fine folks here at 34s, named after number 34, Walter Payton in Schaumburg. Jim Volkman back along with Walter and our special guest, Jerry Hunsinger. And at this time, I'm privileged to announce that Ambassador Office Equipment is creating a very prestigious award in honor of Walter. Now, don't be embarrassed about this. It's one of the many awards you're going to receive and have received. It's entitled the Sweetness Award, appropriately enough. Maybe not since the creation of the Brian Piccolo Award has any athlete merited an award of this stature. And at this time, I'd like to bring in Jerry Hunsinger, the president of Ambassador Office Equipment, a subsidiary of Canon. And Jerry, if you could tell us more about the award and what did Walter do to deserve this one?
Well, the Sweetness Award was developed primarily from the standpoint that I think everyone in Chicago recognizes Walter for his great athletic ability. But after working with Walter for several years, we realized what a great humanitarian he is. And the award was created so that other athletes could perhaps follow in the same likeness of Walter, not only contribute from an athletic standpoint, but also from contributing back to the community in the various charities and functions that Walter's participated in. We're pretty impressed with it. We think it should be immortalized.
That's great. Walter, your comments, I know you have to feel honored, especially when it's an award that is separate from your football accomplishments. It's more of a humanitarian award, and that has to feel good because that's what you're striving for, I would imagine.
You know, it's it's embarrassing, but if it's going to benefit a lot of other people and in turn lead them down a direction where they could contribute to society, then I think it's worthwhile. But for me to sit up here and say I'm definitely embarrassed by it.
But you do accept your responsibility, I feel. I think a lot of people do. You always have, more so than any athlete I can almost think of offhand, similar to that of Michael Jordan. You have accepted your duty, if there is such a thing, as a role model. And how, when you look back upon your career, when you first really became well-known with the Bears, how easy was that to move, because you were still a young guy, 21, 22 years old, to accept that burden of responsibility, knowing that so many kids are watching your moves on and off the field and trying to exemplify them?
Well, it's difficult because there are times when you don't feel good. Sometimes you want to be by yourself, things that you want to do and do with your family, and a lot of times you can't. And to maintain a certain level and of congeniality and greeting people and being kind to people, it's something that you can't front it. You can't pretend it or fake it. It has to be genuine. And even though at times it does hurt, and times that you don't feel like it, it still comes out, and I just can't stop it.
When you talk to kids today, Walter, what do you tell them briefly that is so important, outside, of course, the obvious, listening to their parents, staying away from drugs and all that? What did you do back in Mississippi growing up? How did you prepare yourself for growing up? I mean, I know you had an active imagination. Did you envision yourself being famous and successful? Was that a big part of it?
Not at all. The things I did when I was growing up, I wouldn't recommend to a lot of other kids.
You wouldn't recommend?
No, I was sort of like an explorer. I always had to try things. Yeah. And today, it's not very. I wouldn't give that philosophy to a lot of kids now.
Yeah. Well, you had I guess the privilege of growing up kind of in Mississippi, where you had some fields, a lot of wilderness, and I guess nature to explore. Now, for the kids in the city, I guess they could get into some trouble if they explored too much, right?
I'm sure they would.
Walter, when you grew up, what role models did you have? Were they athletes, or what were the people you looked up to?
My father was the person that I looked up to the most, simply because the things that he had to provide for the family and what he had to go through to do it, and the time he spent away from the family to make things right for the family, it made you appreciate him, and I looked up to him for it, because a lot of times I know he didn't feel like it, and things that, as kids, you're breaking something, you're tearing up something, and he was there to provide for it.
Well, you have two children yourself, and hopefully someday they'll say the same thing, that you were there. That'll be a nice story. We're going to be back with more with Walter, including an interesting hobby that Mr. Payton has developed since his football days. All that and more coming up right after this. Stay tuned. Thanks for coming back here. Join us in the Bud Light Sports Wrap Show. Jim Volkman, along with our very special guest, Walter Payton. And we'd like to thank some of our sponsors for tonight's program, the Chicago Sun-Times and Club Med Vacation. Walter, we're talking so much about your post-career. We haven't talked that much about football, but ever since you retired at the end of the '87 season, one of the things that's been really keeping you busy is, I guess, auto racing, huh? Kind of like Paul Newman. Now, I knew you'd like to drive fast even when you were playing. You got a great collection of cars, but how did this thing all start? You're really into it now. It's beyond a hobby, I guess, huh?
Well, I started with a guy up in Lake Forest, Uwe Olsen. We started with Sports 2000. We did that for a year, and then we ended up getting on Paul Newman's racing team.
Wow. Paul Newman he's been, how long has he done that?
I think he's about 63 years old. He's been doing it for about 10, 15 years.
And you race where? How does this
I race all over the country.
Wow. And it's sponsored by Jerry and the fine people at Ambassador Office Equipment in Cannon. And to help you learn a little more about Walter's racing hobby, we put together this film clip for you. Enjoy it, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Gasoline Alley at Road America on a not-so-typical race day. That's because two celebrities will take to the course today, Top Gun Tom Cruise and the NFL's all-time Top Gun, Walter Payton. For Walter, this is his fourth race of the S2000 series. As you might imagine, he's having fun, but auto racing now also fills a competitive need. It's not all fun and games.
Am I nervous? No, you? Yeah, a little bit, because this is probably, competition in this race here is a little bit stiffer than it has been in the last ones. Like when I was playing football, I tried to, right before I went out, I tried to isolate myself mentally, not physically, and with my music. And the music would always be real fast, pulsating. When you're driving, you have to use a mixture of that because that's where the course flows.
And so it's a new helmet and a new uniform, but it's the same man. Because in auto racing, as in football, Walter Payton plays to win. Early in today's race, Payton's car spun out, and he had to fight front-end problems the rest of the way.
Is there a time to think out there? Oh, yeah, you think. Like when you go into a turn and it doesn't bite, then you say, what the heck is wrong? So you start looking, and you start changing your angle. I had to hit every turn just perfect, else I'd have lost it. We spun in 8th, and what happened, the nose came up, and when the nose doesn't push down, then the wheels, they don't bite. It's sort of like driving on water or ice.
Yeah, you happy?
Yeah, I'm pleased with my progress. I didn't expect to win, but I knew that I had an opportunity to finish in the top 5, and that's good. Because if the grass hadn't got up under there like it did, we'd still end up finishing up in the top 5.
Facing his toughest competition in 4 races, Payton wound up in 12th place in a field of 25 S2000 cars. His next race is 2 weeks away when the competition gets tougher. But if you go by his football career in the NFL, that also means Walter Payton will get tougher too. Rich King for Channel 2 Sports.
Our thanks to WBBM TV for that. Gary, now I understand you have a special presentation in accord to what we just watched. Walter's very special interest in racing. You have a special presentation, another one for Walter.
Well, no, special is I'd just like to thank Walter for being such an outstanding spokesperson for us. First on the football field, he did a great job, but nearly accomplishing Rookie of the Year last year in Sports 2000, I think was a great accomplishment. So I'd like Walter to have this great picture next to his sports car. Walter?
Very nice. You put that thing up on the Payton wall of fame at home, huh?
Somebody put that one up in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walter, how fast can you make that car go?
Well, that one runs about 145. But see,
Yeah.
it's open, so you feel every bit of it.
Right. Wow, that's incredible. How much would a car like that be worth, Jerry? Now you don't keep that in your garage at home, do you? Do you have a special place for that?
Yeah,
you don't just drive around the neighborhood or anything?
I wish I could.
Yeah.
It could be worth an awful lot depending on whether you're paying for the car or the results it gets. We've done an awful lot of promotion on the car, and we've gotten a tremendous amount of publicity. Even on NFL football, they did a special on Walter, and we had 3 or 5 minutes of national TV time. So it's a very good investment from our standpoint of exposure, and of course Walter helps considerably.
You said Walter was a Rookie of the Year?
Walter was a contender for Rookie of the Year last year, and unfortunately he missed the last race, or I think he would have certainly had that to his list of accomplishments.
So you're keeping that competitive zeal going with that. But of course you always wear your helmet. You have to. Yeah, you learn that from football. We're going to be back. We're going to ask Walter what he thinks about the current Bears. He's been on the sidelines. He's close to the situation. And talk some more football with the great one, Walter Payton. Stay tuned. Thank you very much. Jim Volkman back here on the Bud Light Sports Wrap Show. Our final segment, Walter, and now we'd like to talk a little bit of football. Now, of all the records you have, and again, there's so many of them, we just don't have the time for it. I said the one that impressed me the most was your consecutive game streak, your durability factor. Which one are you proudest of?
Getting out alive.
But they don't give a record for that, because a lot of guys get out alive.
I do, though.
Really?
No, I think,
you had the most career attempts of anybody, so you could say that you took the most punishment, and some of those offensive lines and game plans weren't always the greatest, so you certainly took a lot of punishment, but
I don't know.
is that the thing, just avoiding injury?
I think it is with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the records that you make and you accomplish on the football field, they're fleeting, because you got guys like Eric Dickerson, Bo Jackson, and these types of Neil Anderson, and the record's going to be broken. And
You think it will? You're the all-time March 16, 7, 26?
Yeah, they'll be broken. So I'm just happy to get out with my physical health, which I came in with.
How much did the Super Bowl title mean to you? I mean, that had to culminate just the great career, huh?
Well, it meant a lot because it was a team effort, and everybody shared in that victory.
Right.
For me, I think it was anticlimactic. The two games before that were a little bit more exciting.
Right. For winning the championship, you covet that, of course. Real quick, we're running out of time here. Quickly, what do the Bears need most to bounce back in 90?
Probably a Dome Stadium.
Dome Stadium and a move to St. Louis, right? Well, we could, the St. Louis Bears just wouldn't work. Walter, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed it tremendously. Thank you very much. The great Walter Payton, number 34. Walter wouldn't say he's too modest, but I'll say it. The greatest football player of our time. It's been a pleasure to have him on tonight on the Bud Light Sports Wrap Show. Thanks to the audience here at 34s in Schaumburg, and thanks to you for watching at home. I'm Jim Volkman, and we'll talk to you next time on the Bud Light Sports Wrap Show. Good night, everyone.